Hey guys, Dwayne here. Today I want to talk a little bit about feeling stuck and not being able to move forward. I was going through some old paperwork. Actually, I was going through spring cleaning, and which is not really spring, so I guess it's fall cleaning. And I ran across some old divorce paperwork, which brought back a lot of old memories about what I was going through at the beginning and the early stages of this. The reoccurring theme from all of this and the memories that came back up is that I just felt stuck and unable to move forward. It seemed like this was just going to last forever and it was never going to end. It also seemed like she was living the high life without any consequences, and the situation just really did not seem fair, didn't seem just, and it seemed imbalanced. Okay, one of the things when I was going through this, I kept wondering, why was this happening? Why did I feel this way? Why was I going through this? And the first thing that we have to realize on this is that we actually did love this person. We really cared about this person. We dedicated a significant portion of our time to making this relationship work, and we thought it was a cooperative thing. We thought that they felt the same way, that they were working towards the same goals that we were working towards, and that we were in this together. The thing is that when this happens, or when we get to the point where we're either discarded or we leave, or we realize that the situation just isn't healthy for us anymore, the betrayal and the discard hurt, and they hurt a lot. Now, I know in my situation I've talked about before that I was actually the one that left, but the relationship was dead long before I got to that point. So I had lived with years of betrayal, not necessarily betrayal, but rejection, which is which falls in lines with the discard. And then the betrayal is whenever you finally are separated from this person and you don't understand how you meant so little or nothing to this person. And the whole thing really hurts. Whenever you're looking at somebody and the impact of this relationship, they're either attacking you with smear campaigns and that type of stuff, or they are completely giving you the silent treatment or treating you like you just don't exist. And it doesn't make any sense. And the longer your relationship makes it hurt that much more, because it amplifies the confusion on this, because it doesn't make any sense. How can you be with somebody that you cared about and you thought cared about you, and that in the blink of an eye, everything changes and you're either the worst enemy in the world, or you are like a non-person, like you never existed. And typically in the middle of this, there is a void of information and a complete lack of closure. So you're left trying to figure out what happened, why you're in the situation that you're in, and how it's played out this way. It's even more complicated whenever they start to change. If they start to do things that you always wanted them to do. Now, typically from a female perspective, towards the end of a relationship, typically the father starts checking out and isn't really involved, which means whenever the separation happens, they can become actively involved with their kids and being the dad that they should have been when they were with you. And it's the same thing if you're a guy. I mean, there are things that your wife or girlfriend fall in the same categories that they wouldn't do, that they would do out of spite, and then you hear about them doing later, and it's completely normal to be completely frustrated by it. Okay, so the question is, what do we actually do about this? First, we have to accept that this is going to take a long time to heal, okay? It took me about 3 years to get to where I was really feeling better about it. And each day keeps getting better, right? I mean, it's an ongoing process. Second, and this is critically important, whatever they decide to do is irrelevant and doesn't matter to our situations. And what I mean by that, if they decide to be the parent of the year, you just have to let that go and just recognize that that's great for our kids, right? If they decide to be more active in our kids' lives and start acting like a parent, that is great. Now, it's going to make you angry and it's going to make you frustrated, because more than likely that wasn't happening whenever you guys were together. If they decide to be better at housework and cooking and, running a house, again, that's great for the kids, and it doesn't matter to our situation. And focusing on that just causes us more problems and increases the time it takes to heal from this. Now, this wasn't my situation, but another issue is if they get into a new relationship and it appears better, right? They appear that they have found the one, that the relationship is perfect. The first thing you have to remember and realize is in these patterns, if you're dealing with somebody with a personality disorder and a narcissistic personality disorder, there's a pattern, right? They go through the love bombing stage. They go through that idolization phase. I mean, that's normal. So in that situation, the relationship does seem great. If you look back at your relationship, if I look back at my relationship, the first part of it I thought was great. I thought I found the best person in the world, my soulmate, and all that other stuff, because that's what the process does. So you have to remember that a personality disorder is all about appearances. It's all about that mask. And ultimately, it just doesn't matter. I mean, yes, it's hurtful. I mean, it is a painful thing. I mean, all of this stuff is painful because you had that emotional connection with that person and you thought your life meant something. You thought that you had a future with this person. And it doesn't, I mean, you guys know that it doesn't break. You don't sit down together with one of these people and say, "Hi, Susie, we need to talk. You know, things just aren't going right. The direction your life is going is one way. The direction I want to go in my life is another way. And, you know, we've had a great run and we should exit as friends, do the best we can for our kids and recognize that we're going two different ways, right?" And emotionally healthy people can deal with that. That's not what happens in this situation. It turns into a complete and total nightmare. And everybody is they're fighting you and then you're trying to fight back to defend yourself, and it's just a total mess. Finally, we just have to accept that they are not going to be a part of our lives anymore. And that's easy for me to say, right? I can say that, and I would imagine anybody who's in the beginning stages of this, when I said that line, you probably had a twinge in your chest and it hurt because it's a reality that we don't really want to accept. We don't. This isn't what we wanted. We wanted that illusion that we believed in, that in our head was what the situation really was. And all the bad stuff and everything that's happening now is just a big mistake, a big misunderstanding. The problem is it's not, guys. And we have to learn to accept that and realize that they're not a part of our lives anymore. And we have to work to get them out of our lives. Okay, here's the hard part. This is very painful and hard to do. We're going to deal with a lot of resentment and hurt, and it doesn't matter if you're the guy or the woman, the feelings are very similar. Now, the cold reality of this is pushing them out of your head and out of your mind is not an easy thing to do, and you should not expect that it's going to happen overnight. And that was a tough reality for me to accept. When I got to the point that I realized this part of it, that I had to get this out of my head, I knew it logically, but emotionally, it was a really difficult thing to do. And this is going to take a long time. It's a long process. You have to basically reprogram your mind, your head, to get those memories of the illusion out of your head so that you can move forward. You also have to accept the reality of your relationship and not the illusion. You have to remember that there were problems in the beginning of this, and you probably ignored them because you were focused on that illusion. But if you take an objective look, more than likely you're going to be able to see warning signs and comments, and especially as you're learning about narcissistic personality disorder and the typical traits and the characteristics of that, you'll be able to see that your ex was doing those things. And if you have that, if you can see that, you have to take note of it and make sure that you remind yourself of that so that you can put it in the right context and not continue to beat yourself up and drive yourself down into this, pit of despair, thinking that you've lost something that you thought was great. And realistically, what you lost was being held back and being stuck in a situation that you couldn't get out of. So you feel stuck now, but you were stuck. Now you're at the point to where you can start healing from this and moving forward. Okay, guys, going through this old paperwork, some of it was divorce paperwork and different letters and, the back and forth and the emails and stuff. I mean, it really brought back where I was. Looking back, I remember how painful this was. And this was painful. I mean, this was an everyday hurt that I was going through. I thought that I was never going to get over this and that pain and confusion would last forever. The rest of my life was going to be in that mode. And the thing is, guys, when you're going through that part of this process, it feels that way. It feels like this is never going to end. It feels like you are stuck. It feels like you're living a nightmare that has no, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, or if there is a light at the end of the tunnel, it's a freight train. And the thing is that's not really the case. The other thing is I was hyper focused on how she impacted my personal situation. And what I mean by that is every time I heard about something that she did with the kids, and it was like, it was frustrating. It was like, well, she gets, just in the context of everything that was going on, it was either because of the money or it was because, just bottom line, what I'm saying is that everything that I heard that she did, every time I saw something, every time someone told me something, it kept it right in front of my face, and it kept me stuck in this situation. And that's part of the problem is when we're in the middle of this and we're going through it, we keep not inserting ourselves, we keep focused on what the other person is doing. And it's obvious why we're stuck in it, because we keep running the same story, the same scenarios in our head. The thing is, I gave her all that power over my emotions. It was only when I made the conscious decision that I was tired of it and I didn't want to do it did things start to change and get better. But here's the thing, guys. It wasn't easy. I mean, it was not an overnight thing. It wasn't that I woke up one day and said, I'm tired of this and I don't want to do it, and everything immediately got better. It did get a little better, but it still was an ongoing process that took time to continue working at it to get to the point that I'm at now. Okay, honestly, my big change came when I learned about personality disorders. And then when I started looking at her actions that were happening right now and actions that happened throughout the 20 plus years of marriage, that it fit the profile, that I could look and see the different, the words of what was being written and being said about people with a personality disorder and how they act, how they respond, what they do, and it all lined up. That was the first time that I got just a little bit of closure on this. And if you guys are like me, that closure was critically important because I spent a significant amount of time going around in circles, questioning what happened, why it happened, not being able to understand it, trying to be able to wrap my head around why things have happened, what happened, who influenced her, what happened to make this situation that was bad into a living nightmare. And bottom line is, as we all know now, especially if they actually have a bona fide personality disorder, it's just what happens, right? That is the only thing they're capable of doing. That level of love, if you want to call it, that they did give you, which was pretty much non-existent, that's the only thing they were capable of doing. So when I learned that and I had that information to wrap my head around it started the process of getting better and healing, and it sped up a little bit because now I finally had an understanding of what I was dealing with, why things happen, what was happening and what was going to happen, and what I could do to make it better for myself and for the kids. Look, this isn't easy. There isn't some magic pill that you're going to be able to take to make the way you feel go away. And bottom line is it's going to take time, and you have to give yourself that time to do it. So if you're stuck in a situation if you're stuck and you feel stuck and you can't move forward, just recognize that is the normal part of this process. And it hurts. It hurts like hell. It's not a fun situation. But if you can recognize that this is what everyone who's been through this has gone through, and that you're going down the process yourself, hopefully that will give you a little bit of hope to recognize that that you have the opportunity to get through this, and that it takes time. It isn't helpful whenever a normal breakup, which doesn't have these other issues, happens really quick and people get over it. And then you're stuck looking at yourself thinking, what in the world is wrong with me? Everyone else who has a breakup or a divorce or whatever, they get remarried in a few months or a year and their lives are better and things seem great. Why am I stuck not making any progress? Well, this is why. And you have to realize it and recognize it and understand that it's part of the normal process. It's not fun. I mean, it's not a great part of the process. And it drove me crazy. I mean, I wish that in the beginning of it, somebody could have pulled me aside and said, look, you're dealing with somebody who really messed with you to your core. You have somebody who has betrayed you in a way that was unimaginable and you could never anticipate it or expect it. There are people out there who do things like this, and it's not uncommon. It's not talked about a lot. A lot of people don't know about it, but this is the situation. And as a result of that, it is going to take you a long time to get over it. You have to reprocess the reality of your situation, what those feelings really were and what they meant, processing that with the illusion of what you thought your relationship was with the reality. And you have to give yourself a lot of time to get over it. And it is going to take a lot of time. And there are going to be a lot of triggers. There's going to be a lot of emotional flashbacks. You're going to get PTSD. You're going to have anxiety attacks. But it's not permanent. And if you can realize that and realize that every day that you make it to the next day and you keep working on yourself and you keep learning what you can and you keep drilling this thought and this reality into your head, it makes each day better. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to have slip backs and you're not going to have backslides, but it's just you have to stay focused on it. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this video up. I let it run a little long, so I'm just going to go ahead and end it here. So I will talk to you guys on the next video. Take care. Bye.